Hi, good day, good night, good evening, depending on what time you happen to be watching this. Welcome to another episode of House of Stars. I'm your girl Star, and today, as you can see from the title, I am doing this video to honor National Mushroom Day. Okay, so I've been wanting to do this video for like some time. For a while, you know what I mean? But I'm a person that I'm very authentic in how I do things. Like, I'm not a person that just throws things up for views or just to have content up. Like, I'm a person that when I usually come before the camera and like speak up from my heart, like it has to be right. My energy got to be good. Like, everything got to be flowing the way it needs to be. You know what I mean? And when I say that, I mean, like, I do things based on spirit. You know what I mean? Like, I that's just how I navigate on how I do things, you know? So I wanted to talk about my journey with magic mushrooms, but, and exactly how magic mushrooms has saved my life, has saved my life from, a great deal of PTSD and spiritual trauma that I was going through, or that I was healing myself from. So going back to that, I guess I'll just go into a little bit of background. When it comes to the past 4 years of my life, has been the most beautiful. Like, I swear, like, my life is like, it's been like this oxymoron of like the most beautiful things that have been happening in my life, the most greatest experience, but at the same time coming with so much battle and coming with so much like things and traumas and things that I had to deal with and work through. It was literally like the flip of the coin. You know what I mean? Like, I think that I would say that I was in a very Allegra road stage of the past 4 years of my life. It's just, everything was a flip of a coin. You know what I mean? When I had my son, and this is only for some people that know, because I think I've talked about it in lives before, that there was a lot of spiritual warfare that was surrounded around the birth of my child. Okay? And because of that, there was a lot of back and forth and things like that. And, you know, and to be honest, to God be the glory, because the victory was won, the battle was won. But at the same time, there's some such thing as trauma, and there's things that you go through after the fact, spiritually, that you need to heal yourself after going through so much. And I think I was going through the past 4 years of my life. I just kept going. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't say the past 4 years of my life, I feel like I was actually living. I felt like I was surviving. You know what I mean? So I was just kept going. Like, life was just throwing shit at me, and I'm just like, fuck that. Teflon, boom. Like I'm gonna keep going. And to be honest, to God be the glory, because I know really and truly the only reason why I got through half of what I've been through in the past few years is because of God and my faith in the Lord, okay? People have to understand that when it comes to God, God is strongly a faith. It's about your faith. You know what I mean? When you have faith, God will be your strength, you know? So, I feel like, especially in the past 4 years, especially when you go through a very extensive brunt of trauma, there's a lot of your pieces of yourself that you lose. I'm sure people are familiar with like Akashic records, things like that. Like, when you go through trauma, you lose pieces of yourself, things like that. So I would say for the past few years, I kind of felt like, I can't explain it. I was constantly on this rhetoric of like thinking I needed something or certain things to fill this void, when really it was like pieces of myself that I lost. Like, you know what I mean? It's almost like you lose things in battle. You know what I'm saying? And I just felt like I was just walking through this world where it's like I was so blessed and so happy to be this mother and be a mother to my son, and just the son that I had, that I was just so grateful of being a mom to this beautiful boy. But it just felt like when it came to myself, like there was this, something was like, and I felt it in like my heart, in my essence, my person, myself, that was missing. And I was just like, child, like, what is this? You know, like every time I would do something to get ahead, you know what I mean? I always felt like I was being pulled back. And every time I was trying to do something to get ahead, I felt like I was being pulled back. And I was just like, what the frick is this? You know, because of course you're thinking that, of course, in the spiritual world, you think it's somebody else doing something, it's this and that, or whatever the case may be. And people have to understand that when it comes to even magic in itself, like you really, like magic only attaches to, like attaches with like, you know what I mean? So meaning like, somebody could send negativity to you, but will only manifest in the essence of the energy that the person is carrying that's related to that. You know what I mean? Like you can't throw darkness, you can't throw a patch of darkness into a room full of light and think that it's gonna turn the whole room black. No, it's not. The light's on. You know what I mean? So I think I was getting to a space, and this was like the ending of 2020, where I was just kind of like, I used to make this psychic tea. I don't know if y'all remember my psychic tea, but I would make psychic tea, and that was like my whole way of how I would get into spirit and be able to hear the spirit hear my messages from spirit, and like and deal with and go through it and make sense and peace of a lot of things that were coming to me energetically, because it would come at me so heavily that I was just like, oh my God, I forgot this. Oh my God, I forgot that. And oh my God, then this happened. And oh my God, like, because like when you go through, like the level of PTSD that I went to was like such a level that it was so extreme that it was a level of PTSD that usually they find in people that have gone to battle, like if in Afghanistan. Like that's the level of PTSD that I was going through. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I'm a warrior by spirit. So like it was just like, I think that I was going through all this trauma and didn't realize how traumatic of what I was going through and what it was. You know what I mean? So it all started, I say, around ending of December of 2020. And I just felt it on my spirit. Like I just felt spirit talking to me, and I'm like, I don't know why I feel like I need to go do ayahuasca. You know what I mean? And I've been very petrified of doing psychedelics. My whole entire life has always come across the table like, oh, shrooms and acid and this, that, whatever. And I was just like, oh, fuck, that's just not for me. You know what I mean? Because knowing that I'm a spiritual person and I have a very heightened sensitivity to, you know, just spirit and energies itself, I was like, I can't even handle weed half the time. There's no way in hell that psychedelics would be my scene. You know what I mean? So I was searching high and low. And mind you, this is COVID time, and I'm in Canada, so in Toronto. So like our restrictions were pretty intense. You know what I mean? Like we just went, at that time we went down on another shutdown. So I think it was something like there was a shutdown in Toronto, but like different cities out of town had not as severe of a restriction as we did, because we were literally in the house, like state of emergency. And like different places or different cities on the outskirts of Ontario was more or less like, okay, like you can, what was it? Like you can be in a dwelling of only so many people or whatever, right? So I was like, all right, cool. So anyways, I found this place that did ayahuasca, and I was so like jazzed. I'm like, yo, I want to do this, whatever. But they were like severely booked. So they didn't have an opening until like the April or something like that, right? So I was just like, fuck. But I'm like, no, but it was so put on my spirit to do this ayahuasca. Like, I don't know why it's been put on my spirit. I swear, like I was literally like, if it fucking means, like, how am I gonna get out of the country? Like all these, I'm thinking about all these things of what I'm gonna do to go take this ayahuasca. I'm like, okay, maybe I can't go to Peru. Peru is a little bit too much right now, but maybe if I can go to the States. Then I was looking at the places in America. I'm like, okay, I can go like maybe like to, I don't know, Arizona, and then I could find somebody out there and I could do it there. So I was like researching, like, okay, like how am I gonna get out there? Like, you know what I mean? All these things. But even in the same breath, like I know when I'm forcefully doing something I'm not supposed to do. Like where I was sitting there and I was trying to think of ideas, I'm like, something in my spirit was like, girl, be careful with the desperation, because you might get yourself fucked up out here. You know what I mean? And that was what I was thinking, because when I looked at the view of anything that was psychedelic-like or anything that put you in a trance, I'm like, oh, like your brain chemicals can be so fucked up. Like say like I go to fucking Arizona, come back and I'm not the same person. Like I'm a whole mom out here. I'm a single mom. Like nah, like I can't have that. Like I would have failed ocean, all these things. You know what I mean? So I don't know when it happened, So this is what exactly happened. Because this huge journey of my psychedelic journey and healing from spiritual PTSD. I don't even know if it's just PTSD, but my spiritual traumas and what I went through, was all hosted by the Orishas, like up and down. Oh, to mention, sorry, before I started to get it in my spirit to actually do these psychedelics or go on my ayahuasca trip, I just recently started my Yamaya altar, because I used to have Yamaya in my old place, in my old house, but when I lived here, I didn't have Yamaya as of yet. Like, I didn't put her up or nothing, which was funny because I had them all. But it was like during my journey of healing and getting to different levels of my journey of myself spiritually and how I was growing, it was like certain Orishas came in at certain times. You know what I mean? So anyways, what had happened was in December, I would say January, I had a dream. And it was me and my son. And we were sitting in this, it was like in a sea. And I had my feet, me and him had our feet in our water, and I was there and I was playing with him and my feet were in the water. And there was like a beluga whale that like swam under my feet, and I was just like kicking it, like, you know, playing with it with my feet and stuff like that. And then the dream went to like me, and I'm like, Osha, let's go. And then after he's like, okay, so like Osha came with me, and we walked into this house, and it's like this big house, but it's my house, you know what I mean? And I'm looking at this house and I'm like, this is my house. And like, yeah, it's yours. I'm like, okay. And before I knew it, a bunch of people started coming over to my house. So like all these people came in, they were all coming in to see me. You know what I mean? And I was sitting there like, oh my God, like, knowing me, duh, in my mind thinking like, okay, like I have all these people coming to my house, and this is a dream, mind you. I have all these people coming to my house. I ain't got no food for them. I never knew they were coming. I have nothing to offer them. None of these things, whatever the case may be. I want to be able to give them so much food, because when I have parties, especially in my culture and in my family, it's like you go, there's an abundance of food. I had no food to give, and I was embarrassed by the fact that I didn't have food. So I was literally on the phone, like trying to call in and order in food so that I can feed all these people that just showed up to my house unannounced. You know what I mean? And I'm there, and at first I didn't realize the party was for me, and I was like, oh, they're celebrating me here. And I walked into this room, into the house. It was like a dining room, and everything was decorated in blue and white. You know what I mean? Which is obviously, if anyone knows anything about Yamiya, that's Yamiya colors. So everything was adorned in blue and white. And there was a sign that said, up on top, like a banner, and it said, get well. Okay? At that moment, I woke up, I was so scared. I was like, oh my God, like, I'm gonna get sick. Because at this point, over the past few years, I'm already used to like tower moment after tower moment after tower moment, Teflon, tower moment, Teflon, tower moment, Teflon. Like, I'm literally like running from bombs though for the past 4 years, and like you know, like shooting here, shooting there, running for the past 4 years. So I'm sitting there like, okay, get well. Like, what? Did I miss something during these battles? Like, did I not cover myself here? Did I not cover myself here? Am I gonna get fucking sick? Great. As long as I get out of this, because I got a son I gotta take care of. Like, that's just how my whole mentality was. So, I had a friend, and I was like, okay, I can get ayahuasca, right? So, obviously, I started going down the road of YouTube and watching a ton of like YouTube videos and everything like that. And then obviously Shrooms and microdosing came on as one of the videos. And then all of a sudden I just kept on getting all these ads about shrooms. And I was like, what the fuck? So I was like, oh, I'm scared of shrooms. I don't want to do that. Like psychedelics. I'm too old for psychedelics. I can't do that. I'm going to freak out. I'm going to be put in a psych ward. I'm a mother. I got a kid to take care of. I cannot do shrooms. So I'm like, nah. But now my spirit's like, now what about these shrooms? You know what I mean? So I spent like a whole week and a half, I promise you, watching video after video, review after review, reading research papers after research motherfucking papers. Like literally looking for any loophole I can find if there's a such thing as these shrooms fucking me up. And if it would be advisable for me to take these shrooms. And all rivers and stream led to the right place and said like, yo, girl, the worst you can do is just try them and see how they are, you know? So I asked my friend, I'm like, hey, like, you know, like, is there any way you can get me magic mushrooms? He's like, yeah, I know a guy, like, whatever, like, I can get them for you, like, you know what I mean? And I was like, great. You know what I mean? And I was given, like, I think, I don't even know how much it was. It was like a big bag like this of shrooms. And that same day or the day after I got it, I reunited with one of my really good friends that we grew up where we were kids. Like literally like, I met her when I was like 8 or something like this. And she came over for the first time and she's like, oh, we're going to paint and stuff like that and do all this cool stuff. And I was like, okay, that's dope. And I'm like, I have shrooms. Like we can do shrooms. But at the same time, I did not know what to expect. Because I was like, this is my first fucking time doing this, you know? So she comes over and I'm in my mindset thinking that she's gonna come over, I'm gonna probably give her a reading, it's gonna be this whole thing and we're gonna paint and kiki and that's gonna be that. Little did I know, my sweethearts, what I was bargaining for was a spiritual intervention with myself. So in that moment, I remember trying shrooms, and the first time I ever did shrooms, that's when I tripped. I never tripped any other. I've had moments where I've gotten into spirit, because usually for shrooms for me, which I'll get into shrooms for me, when I do shrooms, I get into spirit. That's when I get into my, hey, like my spiritual self, you know? The first time I did shrooms it was like a huge spiritual intervention. That was the first time that I was able to really like see my pain, see myself, and see how delusioned I was and conditioned I was to the trauma that I was enduring and the spiritual recovery I needed to go through. You know what I mean? And I remember being on shrooms and my friend, she read me for filth, girl. Like when I say read me for filth, like she read me for filth for top and bottom. And I remember being under a trance and looking around my whole house. And I could literally see all my pain on all the walls. I could see all my stress on all the walls. I could see the spiritual sickness in the energy of the space where I was like, in that moment, that's when I actually realized I didn't understand how heavily and how strongly my energy vibrated. You know what I mean? I was just like, I know I'm just normal, you know? But it's just like, oh no, bitch, like, you've left some impressions here. And in so many ways, like, you gotta look at the mirror soul of yourself and what you're putting out there. And I remember I cried. I was crying and I was laughing at myself at the same time. But that's, I guess, the issue in me. So I was crying and I was laughing my head off at myself. I was like, bitch, you're a fucking disaster. Like, you're a fucking mess. But it was such an humbling experience for me. And very humbling. Because I feel like as a person, when it comes to doing shadow work, when it comes to any type of work when you do for yourself, it's like, you cannot be afraid to, like, be honest with yourself and see where you've done your wrongs. You know what I mean? And I personally can say that for the most part, I'm not ashamed of accepting my wrongs. You know what I mean? If I've done something wrong, like I'll own it. As long as I could, like, help me figure it out. You know what I mean? Like, because in this world, it's like, it's such a like myriad matrix of so many like intertwining of outcomes and vibrations and consequences and lessons and paying dues, that it's like all you're really trying to do most of all, or at least for me, like, is try to figure out in some way so that you achieve that equilibrium, that you're achieving that balance. And the way that I view life in so many ways is that I look at myself like I'm this special agent for God. You know what I mean? Like, I'm working for God at the end of the day. Because when it comes to this life that we live on this earthly plane, it's like it goes by like this. But the times between realms is an eternity. There's no such thing as time over that place. You know what I mean? So I look at myself as an agent for God in a sense where it's like I'm doing his job. I'm doing his work. I work for that. That's my man. You know what I mean? When they say work for the man, I'm like, that's my man, you know? And I look at things based on, I know I've gone through a series of different things based on learning a certain type of lesson. So that those lessons that I learn and things that I've gone through, I'm able to use that information and my experience to help others. Hence why Yemaya was showing me my house in my dream where they came over and I had no food. So meaning it was like, okay, because I went a whole year where I was in this limbo stage, and it's like you have all these people that you need to help, and where you would have went a whole year through all these lessons and learned all these things and had all these things that you could share, you got no food for them and they just showed up. So what are you gonna do? But this is why you don't have any food, because you need to get well. When you get well, when you get to learn, have access to knowledge, learn, study, heal, embrace yourself, embrace your beings, embrace your divinity, then only in that are you going to be able to have food to give people. And I was just like, actually, I only realized that probably a couple months ago. And I was like, oh, wow, ain't that something? So I think that what I wanted to share when it comes to the stream journey, because I'm telling you, I know you're probably following this story, and I feel like I haven't really gotten any Marcus, bitch. It's been a while since I've done a nice little story, okay? So it's taking me some time to kind of get. So when it comes to magical mushrooms, okay? So the whole thing when it comes to magical mushrooms, what it does for one person is that it actually is a drug that brings forth the mirror soul of who you are, and it accesses the store banks of your DNA, and it does a reset on your brain, okay? So when it came to my experience with shrooms, my disposition and my DNA, I am an African, of African descent. My divinity and my melanin has storylines. It's a storyteller. With me going through my healing, that would make me have a true understanding and a true grounding of what my divinity was and what my beliefs were and what I was governed under, okay? And for my case, of course, I believe in God, Jesus Christ. He's my savior. And I am governed in assistance and in alignment with the Orishas as well. So that's where I really got into myself, and I also deepened my relationship with my Orishas, because your Orishas essentially are your ancestors. You know what I mean? So that's how I was able to deepen my relationship with the Orishas and understand them on a level more stronger, more powerful than I've ever understood them before, when even I felt like I knew a good amount before. Like, it made me even understand things as simple as how you keep your altar. You know what I mean? Like, when I was looking at my altars, I was like, oh, the reason that looks like that, because that's me right now. Like, I have my altar, my Shun altar, which I'm going to shun. We'll put it there. So I'm going to shun. And I had the statue there. And I would give her offerings, give her offerings, give her offerings. But there would be so much offerings on the altar that you wouldn't even know that the statue was there. You know what I mean? So I remember my friend came in and she was just like, oh, I'm like, yeah, her statue right there. And they're like, what? Like, where's her statue? I didn't even know there was a statue. I'm like, yeah, it's right there. But in that same moment when I was on the stream journey, I was like, that's me. It's like, I'm on this table. You know what I mean? It's like you can see my altar, which would say YouTube, what I do for a living, whatever the case may be. Being a reader, being a healer, it's like you see me. But I've disguised myself in so many ways that I'm not really allowing you to see me. You know what I mean? Because it's like I was so clouded by so many different things that were going on. And sometimes we have a way of using our demons and our traumas of what we've been through to protect and shield ourselves. You know what I mean? So then before you know it, it's like your altar, yourself, your life, your psyche, your essence of who you are just becomes an altar of everything being crowded and being a mess. And I think that that's where I came to have a big understanding with the Orishas, and my journey when it comes to Shrooms is really making me understand my altar. You know what I mean? Like understand like who I am as a person, and what was needed to be on my altar to keep me in a great sense of me being aligned with God and my divinity and my greatness. And it was quite the journey and trip in so many ways. I think also it helped me bring me back to a space of being more present, because I was so used to having so much things to do and having so much things coming up me at once. So, you know, everyone knows I'm a single mother, you know what I mean? And everyone knows I own my own practice. And on top of that too, during the years, over the past few years, my mother ended up getting sick. So I was there for my mother, you know what I mean? I was processing a lot of my own emotional stuff and my own stuff that I was going through, and my own traumas and things like that, because of the relationship, the relationship I was with my son's father. We were together for 8 years, on and off. So it was a lot to process, because a better part of my youth and who I was as a young woman was with this man. You know what I mean? So it was like, almost like I felt like I was this daughter that was leaving home for the first time. And I was like, okay, now I'm trying to figure it out. But it's like on my way out, it was like somebody came and said, well, I'm going to take your key. And you can't take those sheets because they're mine. You can't take this because this is mine. And this and this and this because this is mine. You know what I mean? When it's like, but I paid for those things. Like, what do you mean they're yours? You know what I mean? And when I say that, it was like, the decision was made of me and my son's father to part ways. And I was like, cool, okay, like we'll do that. And in so many ways, it was like he wasn't ready to actually see me be able to be on my own and be in a space of being happy with being a mother and not needing him. So in so many ways, there was always that ego of there being that hindrance of spiritual oppression that was thrown to kind of set me off my balance, which what he doesn't realize that I'm a warrior within myself, and I will always fight through stuff like that. And to be honest, like, I fear none of that shit, just because God is the final ruler of my outcomes. That's why I understand with people, and I want to address this. It's about another thing that what I learned on my shroom journey. People that are so scared of witchcraft, people that are so scared of black magic, I'm like, you should be more fearful of yourself than black magic. Because if you know anything about black magic, anything black has no governance over God. Not one single governance, okay? If a demon were to show up in here right now, if I rebuke that thing in the name of Jesus, it would have to flee. The house of Shaitan was not built that strong. You understand? And this is another thing too that I want to address with people that want to get into this craft, because there's so much people in this craft that literally think this thing is sage, roses, and fucking crystals and fucking statues. You know what I mean? They look at things for the very superficial value of what this world is. And you have to have a great understanding of knowing that if you have to know and appreciate that the dark actually exists, and in so many ways that the light exists as well. If you're in this business, if you're in this craft, and you are gonna sit there and be afraid of anything spiritual that could come your way, negative or whatever the case may be, and not realize that you're not gonna experience that, then you're completely naive to what the fuck this shit is, okay? I'm telling you that you don't have to see a demon just because somebody sent it to you. You understand? You don't have to see a demon just because I've had situations where there's people that have done work for themselves and not realize that they had certain things or entities or energies that were on themselves and broke that, and that broke out into their space. Close my door, hold on. And that broke out into their space. So for you guys that are in this industry, just keep and in this business, be understanding of the fact that this world when it comes to spirituality is not for the faint heart. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. There's a lot of healing. There's a lot of things that you're going to need to face, especially when you go to every level of where you're going spiritually and how you grow. It's like they say, for every new experience, there's a new demon. You know what I mean? So getting back to my journey with shrooms is like, that gave me a big understanding, or I was able to learn not only to see my faults and heal from things that I need to heal from, but it also gave me a great understanding of the divinity of the world and how it's balanced in itself. And with understanding and clarity, there's no fear. You know what I mean? With understanding and clarity, there's no hurt that can dwell anymore. You know what I mean? Because you've made peace with, you're given the ability to give big peace with the things that are invested and that are embodied within you and who you are. You know what I mean? So on my shroom journey, I'm able to have many heights, and most recently, I would say that I am grateful to say that I closed out a big major karmic cycle that I was on, a big one, and I am actually, it's something that of course I don't want to experience again, but I'm actually very grateful for going through it, because it was such a humbling experience. And in so many ways, it made me actually see the strength of who I was and what I am doing and what I'm sent here to do. And not just that, just the level of the kind of cases and people we're going to come across moving forward in this new age of Aquarius. Because I'm going to tell you right now, like, you spiritual people, get prepared. Get fucking prepared. Like, this shit ain't tarot cards. This shit ain't fucking sage and shit. Like, get prepared. Like, you're gonna have some people come across your table with some cases of some spiritual shit going on that it's gonna be like, okay, this is like an epidemic at this point. You gotta keep in mind that we've just recently went through a pandemic. We have to keep in mind there's a lot of people that have been sitting here at home in close places that have been dealing with certain issues and are actually getting a chance to actually sit with their shit. We're dealing with people that have sat down in their life right now that haven't had time to do anything else and started to or is sitting in a space of indulging in substances or whatever the case may be. Another thing that attracts lower vibrational beings. You know what I mean? We're in a space right now just in the world itself and what's happening with the world, with the vaccine and things like that. The energies right now and the veils between this world and that are getting really fucking thin. So if you want to be in denial of just what really is going on in this world right now, it's don't do it to yourself. You know what I mean? This is a time where I feel like energetically that people's faith is going to be tested in so many different ways. Where people's faith in God is going to grow in such a stronger level that people's understanding of their own divinity and who they are as a person and themselves is going to be powerful. And just being in a sense of being able to see like how real this light between the darkness in this realm is very real. You know what I mean? And I think that in so many ways when I went on this journey with shrooms and healing myself, and a number of people, because not even just about shrooms, I'm talking about people in general that are healing themselves. People are being put in the position of really understanding their true divinity and what they're being called to do so that they can be of assistance and help to others. Because you have to understand that when it comes to illusions, like, you can only keep another person under illusion for so long. You know what I mean? Until the lights turn on and it's just like, oh, well, that's not the moon, that's the sun. You know what I mean? And then you start seeing things for what they are, right? I just want people to understand, like, why I'm even doing this video and talking about the shrooms and stuff like that I'm just paying homage and literally, like, and being grateful and advocating for how important your divine healing or your healing in yourself is. And I highly suggest, and take this as a video or a review on how shrooms can really change your life and really help you in so many different ways. Some of the things that come up can be really deep, especially when it comes to reflections of self. But I feel like people should never be afraid of doing their shadow work. And just even in this world in itself and how things change and how you learn how to function within that, you know? So I'm just grateful because in so many ways, like I was able to just see such beauty and understanding and knowledge in everything I've gone through. It's made me a stronger advisor. It's made me a stronger, way stronger practitioner. And it's also made me, in so many ways as well, a better mother. Because through my shroom journey and going through my healing, I was able to go into my inner child and be able to get on the same level with my son. Because when you are a parent, in order to relate to your children and understand your children and go level to level with them, is like you have to be in touch with your inner child. And as my son being the catalyst for that, of me stepping into my inner child, was how I was able to understand my son better. And also to help him learn better too. Like if you see like Ocean now, like just the levels of growth that's happened in such a short period of time is just been like, whoa. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, I just need to get on your level. Like that's all I need to do. Okay, mommy can do that. Like, you know? And I think too, when it came to my shroom journey, because shroom, again, like I told you, it is activation of DNA. You know what I mean? It like uses the memory banks of your DNA to like show you yourself and make you understand yourself. And in so many ways, like that's when that's when I really got into the space of understanding like ancestry. You know what I mean? And understanding generational curses. And understanding what you do and what is necessary for you to set up your line and your, like, you know, the children that come from your loins, you know, like for my son, I seen so many things, especially experienced things with other people where I started to go back in their childhood. I'm like, And when I started to map things out, I was like, whoa, like certain things are so important. And I think that even those things were so important for me to have a better understanding and reflection of my own child and how I was going to raise him. You know what I mean? So that's where shrooms are really good as well, of getting into those DNA store banks and actually going through the levels of understanding of what the makeups of who you are is. And yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful plant, beautiful drug. It's a beautiful thing, and there's so much you can learn. There's so much healing that can come from the journey of microdosing. So I would highly suggest it. I guess that I will put down some links of different videos and reviews of people that have done shrooms and like just more information on that. But I feel like I'm going on a tangent, but I'm going to close out this video right now and say thank you for watching, and I hope some of the stuff resonated for you and it made sense. But yeah, you guys have been great. I'm very grateful for every single person over the past few years, whether it be friends, whether it be readers, whether it be supporters that actually helped me through my journey and has been there through my journey, because it was a very, very difficult one. But praises to God, praises to the Orisha Alafia, and praises to shrooms, microdosing, and I highly suggest it. So again, I'm going to leave you guys on that, but I want to thank you so much for your time and rocking with me. May God bless you and the angels protect you. Good night.